Thanks for joining us on the news at this hour. I am Perpetua Fasamipita. We begin business now on a positive note as the economic growth in Nigeria accelerated faster than expected in the second quarter of the year. Nigeria's economy grew 3.5% year-on-year in the 3 months through June, compared with 3.1% in the first quarter. This is driven by growth in the non-oil sector. Growth in the 3-month period marked the 7th consecutive quarterly expansion and was driven by a 4.8% improvement in the non-oil sector, which makes up the majority of the economy, compared with a 6.1% increase from a year earlier. Nigeria's revenue from non-oil exports hit $2.6 billion in the first half of 2022, the highest since 2018. Data from the Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NNPC) show that this represents a 62.37% increase from the $1.59 billion that was exported during the same period last year. The oil sector shrank by 12%. Oil production declined to 1.43 million barrels per day in the second quarter, compared with 1.49 million barrels in the previous 3-month period. The central bank has hiked its benchmark rate by 250 basis points to 14% since May in an effort to fight inflation, which hit a near 17-year high of 19.6% in July. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA) says it will withdraw the licenses of domestic airlines within 30 days if the airlines fail to sign a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on how to clear the about 46 billion naira debt which they owe aviation agencies. The Aviation Authority said this in response to a letter written by the Airline Operators of Nigeria (AON) to the Ministers of Finance and Aviation, where the airlines accused aviation agencies of stifling the growth of the sector through multiple charges. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting in Abuja, the Director General NCAA, Musa Nuhu, described the letter as false, saying the charges had remained the same since 2009 but should be reviewed soon, a development that might trigger another hike in airfares. At the meeting, it was established that domestic airlines owed NCAA 19 billion naira and $7.6 million. That's 3.22 billion naira as at Tuesday's official exchange rate of 423 naira 38 kobo per dollar. While the indebtedness to the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria (FAN) was put at 18 billion naira. They also owe the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency (NAMA) 5.73 billion naira, bringing their cumulative indebtedness to the three agencies to 45.95 billion naira. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited says the importation of petroleum products into the country will be stopped by mid-2023. Melekiari Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited disclosed this at a State House ministerial briefing organized by the Presidential Communications Team on Tuesday in Abuja. He said that the combined output of Nigeria's refineries is being revamped, while DANGOTE refinery would produce enough barrels to stop importation. The federal government on Tuesday said Nigeria spent $6 billion on importation of wheat into the country between 2016 and 2020, a period of 5 years. Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Mahmoud Abubakar, disclosed this at the stakeholders validation workshop of the National Wheat Strategy document in Abuja. He stated that with the growing population and consumption rate of wheat and its products, Nigeria had no option than to boost its productivity to meet the country's increasing demand. The minister, however, noted that the draft National Wheat Strategy document was developed as a policy framework to increase production, incomes, and the competitiveness in local production for smallholder wheat farmers. Similarly, the federal government and the African Development Bank (AFDB) have targeted to increase wheat production from 71,000 metric tons to 6 million metric tons in 10 years. This will be achieved using the roadmap contained in the new national strategy to ensure Nigeria becomes self-sufficient in wheat production by 2023. The 10-year national strategy for wheat production self-sufficiency to be implemented between this year and 2032. The new strategy also prioritized the thematic area of wheat research and development, seed system, mechanization, production and productivity, extension service and training, improved access to credit and use of financial system, as well as marketing, processing and product utilization. The federal government has projected an average of 120 trillion naira as consumption expenditure by Nigerians, on which value-added tax (VAT) will be charged between 2023 and 2025. Reacting to this on Business Breakfast earlier in the day, business analyst Kamalil Tanimumo urged the federal government to seek other means of generating revenue.
If we're looking at a consumption expenditure of 120 trillion between 2023 and 2025, currently there's a deficit. What are we doing to the devil of fuel subsidy? So we can't just say expenditure in isolation. How about subsidy? How are we dealing with subsidy? Now there are insinuations that VAT will be increased. So who is going to bear the brunt? You are impoverishing people the more. I mean, I listened to the news yesterday, and kerosene has risen by 99% in the last 1 year. Kerosene, which the average man uses, has risen by 99%. So poverty is ballooning every day. Now you want to increase the VAT. At some point, they were going to increase excise duty on the telecom sector. So we need to look inwards. There's several ways that we can look inwards. Let's look at non-oil producing sectors.
The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, on Monday said the federal government was proposing an aggregate expenditure of 19.76 trillion naira for the 2023 fiscal year. With this announcement, the federal government may need to borrow about 12.41 trillion naira, which could raise Nigeria's total debt to a record 54.01 trillion naira. Speaking to Business Breakfast on the matter, analyst Vayala Kwaga said he was only taken aback by the lack of urgency to improve revenue generation.
The issue really is, what has Nigeria been relying on its revenue, and how successful has it been at collecting that revenue? The sources are oil and non-oil sources. The oil sources have been suffering tremendously with the increase in oil theft. And, year and year on, Nigeria has shown that it does not really have the capacity to collect taxes from its citizens. I was just looking at a paper out by Steers Business, and they stated that only about 6% of Nigerians pay taxes. And, I suppose that this would probably be the same at the state level. So by and large, it's really not surprising. I just hope that Nigerians are not too jaded to realize that these are very, very urgent and critical issues. And if they are not addressed, things can really go from bad to worse.
To further discuss details of the 2023 appropriation bill and its deficit, I'm joined by a chartered accountant, SESAN OKUNADE. Hello, SESAN. Thank you for joining us. Can you hear me now, sir?
Okay, I think it's better. So you faded off before.
Okay, so I do apologize for that. Well, the 2023 budget proposal is pegged at 19.76 trillion naira, and it has a deficit of 11.3 trillion naira, or 12.41 trillion naira. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Perpetua, and good afternoon to all our viewers. When I read the report of the Minister of Finance talking about borrowing to finance budget for 2023, it didn't come to me as a shock because they do say that EU fails to plan. They definitely plan towards failure. If you look at the major revenue generation for the nation, which is oil, we've had NNPC come out to tell us about energy theft, about oil theft, that has reduced our production even to OPEC, and reduce our revenue in sin. And that's one side of it. When you don't have revenue, what do you expect to grow as an individual? You look at the expenditure side of it. There have been so many borrowing in the area of capital expenditure to develop infrastructure. But how much has this infrastructure yielded back to us? It's part of the budget. So you discover that you borrowed money in such a way that you develop infrastructure to generate revenue. Take, for example, the train between Abuja and Kaduna. So much was borrowed, and we expected to be generating revenue to finance it. But you discover that when revenue to repay back that loan is not there, you have to take from the recurrent expenditure of the government in terms of the legislators, the civil servants, and the like. It's been very, very difficult. Talked about inflation. Also, it has been skyrocketed. You and I know that in the last 2-3 weeks we had the highest number in the last